Isn't he precious? Babies like him are born every day. All over the planet, people are giving birth to children almost every second. Sadly, at the same time, people are dying. This is known as the birth and death rate. It's constantly changing, and it's what makes up our world's population. This is the world population counter. The numbers over on the right are changing constantly. Up one, down one. It's doing this because people are being born and passing away simultaneously. The numbers that move at a much slower pace are the ones on the left. As you can see, the 7 represents the billions. That's 7 billion people living on this planet right now. 7 billion. And that number is still growing. These are the populations for over 200 years. In 1960, it was at 3 billion. That means we've more than doubled in the last 50 years. Doubled. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, okay, the population is going to grow. That's normal. But what does this mean to me? There's only one Earth, and for right now, there is no alternate living space out there. So that's 7 billion people living on this one rock. Our resources are very limited, and the supply of clean drinking water, food, and actual living space are running out. Also, schools, cities, prisons, almost anywhere you look, places are overcrowded. Anyone ever been in a room with too many people? It's hot, you're pushing around for some room. It's tough, because everyone there wants the same thing as you, space. Now imagine that on a global level. Right now, it may not seem like a problem to us. We're not fighting anyone over our dinner. But has anyone looked outside our country? We live in a world that can produce food for everyone, but still, over 1 billion people are undernourished. That's an 800 million increase since 2008. To put it simply, there are just too many people. But how we are living on this planet is doing just as much damage. Do you realize how much water you're wasting taking 20-minute showers? 50 gallons. Or how much food we as a country waste every day? Nearly half of what is produced. Half. These numbers seem insignificant when you're looking at yourself, but we have 311,591,917 people living in this country alone. You take that little bit and think of every single person thinking that same way, and it stops being such a small amount. If we continue living at this pace, increasing our population by such high numbers, and living the way we are, he's not going to be growing up in such a nice place. Instead, he'll be fighting a war for resources. Not freedom, not terrorism, but food and water. An obvious solution would be for people to stop having babies, but that's out of the question. China is struggling with a one-child per family rule. Girls are either aborted or abandoned. We need to continue our species, and you do that through reproduction. It's natural. One might ask the world population to limit the number of offspring they produce. Once again, somewhat out of the question, because not all babies are planned. Instead, I believe birth control and knowledge on birth control is something the world should be more aware of. I understand religion and ethics come into play, but I'm trying to save the planet. I'm not talking about abortion, that's a whole different topic, but rather taking precautions against pregnancy is something that should be more accepted. People don't want their children learning sex education in school in some parts of the world. I believe it's a must if we were going to do anything about the population problem. A lack of education on sex can lead to something very big. Teen pregnancies are one of the best examples of unplanned children. You get to that age, you and your boo have a romantic time, and bada bing, bada boom, you're looking at a life-changing event. This happens way too often, and it's slowly resulting in an overpopulated Earth. There are 2.5 billion children predicted to be born within the next 40 years. We're expected to reach about 9.5 billion people by the year 2050, and if something isn't done, it's not going to stop increasing. Prior to pregnancy, people should be educated on the choices they have. Not everyone in this world needs to have 5 or 6 children. Or 19. Excess like this is destroying our planet. I'm not saying don't have kids, I want kids, but maybe the idea of 1 or 2 to replace yourself and your significant other would be a good starting point at controlling our population. Because if we don't change the way we're doing things, then there won't be any room left for the next generation.